All right, so take two on tutorial number 5 here. Did a 16-minute upload last night and realized that my mic was muted, so that's fun. So today going to continue on the build of Yankee Stadium. So just as a recap, in tutorial number 1, focused on getting the field dimensions right. Getting the obviously the the distances, but also the wall heights, kind of unique in Yankee Stadium back then. In tutorial number 2, talked about getting the lower level set, which is always a really important piece. And some tips and tricks on how to get these. This is the critical piece right here, the one next to the dugout, getting that lined up, and then building out from there. Tutorial number 3 was actually getting outside of the stadium, so getting some of your streets put in, and then starting to build out the cityscape or the skyline around there. So there's our courthouse outside of the stadium. So we'll kind of zoom back in here. Tutorial number 4 was getting the decks put in, so working on the upper and lower deck. And this video is going to be focused on putting in the roof and the lighting, which I have basically completed because I did it during the tutorial last night. But I did pull some of this out so I could, walk through some of the stuff that I do. But you can see that this thing is really coming together. So anyway, the the roof at the old Yankee Stadium was flat. I chose to use two connected concrete concourse pieces. But obviously, if you like the look of the roof better, if you're building a different stadium, certainly, would encourage you to use the roof pieces that are built in here. These are actually pretty good, and if you kind of zoom in on them, they have some built-in, lighting and speakers and things like that, and it does add, some pretty cool stuff to the stadium. So either way, though, I would encourage you at the very least to make sure that you have your heights right to put in a piece of the concrete, and that way you can get this lined up, and then you can always go in and delete that one piece. So, if I were doing this, I would probably do something like that. It actually doesn't look bad. I did it last year. I used this um, because I do like the look of the steel beams in there, which did exist in the stadium. But it just, I don't know, it doesn't, it's not right. It's not accurate. So I'm not using them this year, but you can certainly do that. So I'm just going to slide this light stanchion back here. And these lights here, they're really accurate. They're very similar to the lights that were at the stadium, that hung right over, right at the edge. And I think that's important with any lights that you're using in this game, is if you set these too far back, if you were to do something like this, you're going to get a lot of the light that actually casts right onto the roof, and it'll create some weird shadows and dark spots. I would say that if you are going to, go for accuracy, take a look at pictures, obviously. But if you're building your own stadium, you want to make sure that you get those lights high enough to make sure you're not having any of that light blocked by the stadium structure itself. So let's talk a little bit about this roof. So essentially, as I said, I'm using these long pieces, so it's just two concrete pieces, and you can actually, I think I've got a couple. Yeah, so this is the one right here. That I used, and then just double it and connect them, and that's what I'm using for the roof line there. So what I found out was that there is only a certain number of groups that you're allowed to have in any given stadium build. And what I mean by that is, if you hold your L1 button, you can see that all these have different colors. Ugh, that's a little busy there. But if you run out of groups, then you can just ungroup stuff that you've already grouped if it's in place. So as an example, these roads that I put in, these were all grouped together, just so I didn't have to set these pieces individually. So now I can just go back and ungroup these, and that will free up a group slot for me to be able to do what I need to do. You can do as many as you want, but just free up those slots to be able to make your life a little bit easier, so you're not setting all of these roof pieces or whatever groups you're trying to do individually. So I'm just going to do one more of these. So that's just an L1, hit X on the group itself, and then you're going to hit each X on, keep holding L1 and hit X on each individual piece, and that'll get squared away for you. So I'm just going to continue this line, right? So let me get to a spot where I can really get a feel for the distance here. But you can see that down here, just in front of the roof line, I've got, looks like, about 3 rows exposed. So I'm just going to duplicate this and just keep moving down the line here. So this is obviously easy right here because this is a straight section. But right here, it actually starts to turn. So on my turns, I want to make sure that I am doing this in such a way that I'm keeping that distance, pretty consistent, but at the same time, I'm not creating, gaps or anything else like that. So you can see in the back there, right here, I am creating a gap, so I'm going to have to go back in and fill that in with another concrete piece after. But I do want to just get this, this stuff set. So I get my roof turning here. And it's pretty much going to follow the contour of the stands. So you can kind of see, I'll do that. So what I don't want to have is a big jog like this right here. So I just want to make sure I get those lined up, so it's nice and even. And then now I can start coming around and more like that. I can start coming around to the flat part here. And it's just a lot of feathering with the L1 and R1 button, so no biggie there. And you can see I'm actually starting to drift here a little bit. Now I've got, like 5 sets of 5 rows. So I really need to come up here with this. And that's easy to judge, a little bit easier to judge on a flat section. You do definitely start to lose it a little bit in the turns. So there we go. So that's a better rounding there. That's still probably a little bit too far back. So this is still pretty straight here. And then we do have a little bit of, a turn right at the end there where it turns back toward the field. So, and I want to get that lined up, obviously, with the edge of the stands. So good. So now I have my roof line in, and you can see, obviously, I've got these big gaps back here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go and I'm just going to grab another one of these pieces and duplicate it. And that way I can start, coming back in here and filling in my gaps. This one will be easy because I can just slide it forward. And I'll end up coming back through and trying to make as much of a clean line as I can for the outside. This is really a matter of preference when you do this here, because quite frankly, this is never seen. There are really no cutaways of the outside of the stadium or anything like that. But I know it's there, so it's something that just kind of drives me nuts. But anyway, so now we get our lights set. We get one light set, and then again, just take a look at the diagram on the andrewclem.com or a picture of the stadium or whatever, and set your light. So I'm just going to take this, duplicate it. I'm going to move this down here, a little bit of a turn on that light. So again, I want to keep that right close to the edge. And then this guy is going to live right here. So that's good there. And we'll take a look back up. hit the square button, and now you can see that there is a well lit stadium there. And what's cool is actually, if you see pictures of the old stadium from back in the 40s, 50s, 60s when these lights went in, this area at center field was actually a little bit darker like that. There were no lights back here. Back then, and they didn't have the ring lighting that went all the way around like they did after the renovation in the 70s. So it was a little bit darker back here, which is kind of cool. And I can tell you that when you play this, it just feels old for a lot of reasons, but pretty cool there for sure. So the last thing on the roof, I don't love this, but I think it's the best option is just that facade. So the Yankee Stadium facade. I would love to plead to SDS to please try to include that because it would be amazing to be able to put that in. But I just use this gate piece here. So if you go into the gates and fences or fences and gate menu, it's the fence gate end is the piece, and then you're just basically going around and you're lining this up, so that there's a little bit of it's sticking out from the roof a little bit, and then you're just following the contour of the stadium all the way around. So I'll go in and I'll put the remainder of these in around the edge of the stadium, and in the last video, we'll put the finishing touches on. So I'll focus on getting the outside of the stadium built, right? So if you've ever seen the pictures of the old stadium, you know that there's these kind of this goldish brick that's available out there, or that was on the face of the stadium out there. So this courthouse actually functions pretty well as that. So we'll wrap that all the way around the whole stadium. We'll make a nice front entrance here, and then just put a couple of finishing touches in here, like the big flagpole out in center field. We'll put fences, so we'll put the gates up here in front of the bullpens, and we'll close these babies off to the street level. So, and that will do it. So, hopefully you found this useful. Again, my apologies for having most of the work done prior to the tutorial. But hoping to have this thing finished up here very, very soon and available in the vault. And enjoy.